was 19 years old when I joined the Army. I waited a year after high school to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. You know, honestly, I thought of the Army as kind of a stepping stone to other things. I mean, I was really excited to join, but you know, I just kind of, I wanted to do something different with my life, see where it took me. And my family wasn't really, it's not that they weren't supportive, they were just, you know, kind of, they weren't going to push me in any direction other than, you know, what they thought I wanted to do. So that, I guess you could say they were supportive. A possibility of taking another person. You know, honestly, that's something that I don't think you really sit there and you think about it much until you're deployed or while that moment's on you. Because I mean, you know, how do you prepare yourself for something like that? You don't. But you know, I mean, you know it's coming, and I don't know. I guess I just chose not to think about it. It's the closest thing I can think of to preparing myself for that situation. I joined the military in August of '07. I wasn't deployed. My first deployment was to OIF, to Iraq in 2008. That was in August 2009. So I was in for like 2 years before I even deployed. I really thought I was going to be deployed quicker. You know, for a while I was like, this isn't going to happen. You know, I hadn't been deployed before, so I was disappointed at the time, I suppose. But you know, it eventually happened. I don't think I ever. You don't ever really sit there and let yourself think that you're not going to make it back, because you know you let yourself worry about that, and you know it's a slippery slope. You know, one day, you know, you're thinking, you know, what if I don't make it back to my family? And then, you know, I mean, I don't know. You see people, they think about that, and you know, they just kind of lose a good mindset while they're deployed. That's when it's a real danger that they're not going to make it back, because their mind's not in it. You know. Probably my biggest fear while deployed, other than dying, it was probably being wounded, probably being like an amputee, or you know, being wounded worse than that, and coming home alive. I think that was a big fear for everybody, you know, because I mean, you know, you hear about these situations where people, you know, they're in wheelchairs, or they're blind for the, you know, and they're missing limbs, and you know, I mean, you know, that's something that scared everybody. I think, you know, I mean, we never really talked about it, but it scared everybody. You know. I joined the Army as an 11 Bravo infantry. That never changed. I've been infantry for about 5.5 years now. Got like 20 days left. So it's been a long road, but I did, in my time there, I did 2 tours. One to Iraq, one to Afghanistan. They were both about a year long, give or take a couple of weeks. So I spent about 2 years deployed out of those 5. I had one friend who died. He died in Afghanistan. His name was Luis Torres, and IED took his legs off, and he died in the hospital about a week later in Germany, which it was hard. I guess they just they didn't get enough oxygen to his brain, so he's brain dead. So they made the decision to pull the plug on him. There was one instance where that sticks out in my mind. I mean, things happen all the time while you're deployed, but one specific instance where I was like, you know what, there is a chance I'm probably not gonna make it home. You know, well, I mean, it wasn't that specific instance, but it was this one thing where it kind of opened my eyes and made me aware, because it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like it. My buddy rolled over in IED, and it took his right arm and right leg off, and you know, I mean, you don't, I suppose, you know, you think about these things, but you don't know the full gravity of them until they happen. And you know, from there on out, I understood, like, wow, you know, this is not, you know, this isn't a game. This is actually something that has, you know, life-altering consequences. You know, if you take that wrong step, or if you're just, you know, if you're in the way of a stray bullet, you know, I mean, that's what happens. You know, so it was I think that specific instance, I thought to myself, you know, there's a chance that, you know, I might not make it back. There's a chance that the guy to my left or right might not make it back, you know. I mean, it's just as simple as stepping in the wrong place. I don't think I ever really wanted to give up, just because you see the people that give up, and, you know, I mean, those guys, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the guy that looks back about 20 years from now and said, you know, I was in the Army, but halfway through a deployment I gave up on myself, you know. They stopped taking me out on missions, because, I mean, what did you join for in the first place, you know, if you had to, you know, get taken out of there because you just gave up on yourself, you know. What inspired me to just kind of give it everything I got every day is because I knew that there was an end to this, you know, that, you know, that I knew that, you know, one day I was going to be done with all of this, you know, and that's honestly what kept me going. That and my family, you know, I think it really helped these past 5 years, being able to see my family. I'm from Seattle. I got stationed down in Fort Lewis, you know, which at the time I was kind of I was mad about that at first, but I don't know. In retrospect, it's made these 5 years really helpful. Here, it's been very helpful these past 5 years. You know, I honestly don't think I acted any differently when I saw my family when I came home. It wasn't, you know, I don't think I really thought about it. I don't know why I didn't. It didn't feel like a bigger deal, but I just you know, I guess that's just the way my family is. I don't know. Honestly, the hardest thing to adjust to when I came back was probably just calming down, relaxing, just being able to shut off that part of my mind that was just always going over there, because it wasn't, you know, this isn't Afghanistan, this isn't Iraq, you know. I mean, chances are there isn't anybody lurking out there with a AK or putting an IED in for you, you know. I mean, so I think calming down was my biggest problem coming home.
So yeah, it was hard when it went on a second tour. I mean, I was afraid it didn't hurt, but again, I can't think about it because I can't let it ruin my life. Just keep going.
Yeah, it was hard for me when he was deployed for another tour, but I felt like I was more used to it, in a way. That's kind of weird to say. But, and then in another sense, instead of being in Iraq, he was in Afghanistan, which is worse than Iraq. But, I mean, it's kind of, you try not to think about it.
I didn't think about it. I figured he had all his training, so I prayed, and that was about it. I just kept going on my daily life and tried not to think about it.
I didn't think about it either. I mean, there's nothing you can really do, so yeah, I just went on with my regular lifestyle. Didn't think about it at all, really.
How we made it through the time when our son was at war, and it was our son that went to first Iraq and then Afghanistan. And what you do is you try actually not to think about it overly much. But what I did is, you know, it was in the back of my mind all the time, but then I pray for him. More than that, I pray for the people he was with too. And that's really all you can do, you know. The situation is what it is. You know, he's going to war. You know, we knew it as soon as he said he was signing up for the military that he was going to be stationed in Iraq to begin with, and then we knew later on he was going to go to Afghanistan.
I just didn't dwell on it. I didn't watch a lot of news. I didn't, you know, just very briefly. I just moved on. I just did everyday life and just didn't dwell on it. I just moved on, and you just kept it in the back of your mind.
When your loved one is overseas and they're in the military and you hear on the news that something has happened, there was really only one time that I questioned, and it was the time when the U.S. soldier killed a bunch of people.
The news of that American soldier accused of putting on his night vision goggles and then methodically going door to door, killing children and families in their homes in Afghanistan. It is a slaughter that threatens the already fragile future there, and tonight we are learning more about who he is.
Americans and Afghans agree on this much: this crime was unforgivable. It was a methodical massacre. 16 civilians, including 9 children, most shot through the head, their bodies wrapped in blankets and burned. Are these children Taliban? Asked this woman. Is this 2-year-old a Taliban? The shooter, identified as a 38-year-old staff sergeant, slipped away from his base at 2 a.m., armed with at least 2 weapons. He walked south more than a mile and began stalking door to door. In the dark, he killed 4 Afghans. Then he shot this boy. I jumped under the bed, and that's when he fired at me, he says, telling his story over the phone to President Karzai. In a second house, the shooter killed a daughter, mother, and grandmother, then gathered up 4 little boys and 4 little girls and killed every one. 11 dead in one family. The shooter stopped one last time to kill an unarmed man. Then he calmly returned to his base and turned himself in. It was all over in less than an hour and a half.
Anytime that something happened, it was on the news or on the TV, we would hear from him within a matter of days.
I didn't want to watch the news. It was just doom and gloom, and that was all about the war. That's the last thing I wanted to hear about. And the same thing is, I didn't worry too much because usually, like he said, we would get a phone call pretty quickly after something major happened. And he always did call. I was ecstatically relieved he came home, you know, because it was just, you know, we knew he was going to be home safe. It was done. Because after he came home from the last one from Afghanistan, we knew he was getting out of the military, and I knew I only had about 5 to 6 months more to go.
The first time that when he came back from Iraq, we already knew at that point that he was going to do another tour. He was going to sign up again for another 4 years. So at that point, we knew he was going back to Afghanistan. So my initial reaction that time was I just kind of said, okay, well, we're halfway through. We're halfway home, and now we just have to make it another half and we're good. But when he came back from Afghanistan, we knew he was going to stay home. I was overjoyed because he had made it through and he was fine, and same old Danny, you know, same old son. Nothing wrong with him, and he has about at this point he has about 2 more months left, and then he's done. So he's not going to be deployed again. We know that. So yeah, relief when he came home, and we knew he was staying home.